Wednesday, April 26, 2023. The time is 5:33 p.m. Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Harrington,
Here.
Vice Mayor Wu,
Here.
Councilmember Chan,
Here.
Councilmember Ding,
Here.
Councilmember Menchaca is absent.
Thank you. All right, we'll have some announcements from our Assistant City Clerk.
Tonight's meeting is live streamed on Cable Channel 3 and our online platforms. If you wish to address the City Council, we request that you please complete a speaker's request card and hand it to the clerk. If you wish to be added to the city's distribution list to receive City Council agendas, please email your request to cityclerk@sgch.org. One change to tonight's agenda due to inability to have a full council present tonight, with the mayor's approval, deliberation and appointments have been moved to the May 2nd, 2023 regular meeting.
Thank you. First item, please.
Item 1, public comment. This time is set aside for members of the public to address the City Council on items on this agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. When speaking, please state your name for the record. Mayor, we haven't received any emails.
We have not received any emails. Anyone in the audience that would like to address the council? Seeing none. Next item, please.
Next item is interviews and appointments to the Design Review Commission, Historic Preservation and Cultural Resource Commission, and Planning Commission. Applicants will be interviewed to fill 3 expiring seats on the Design Review Commission, 3 expiring seats on the Historic Preservation and Cultural Resource Commission, and 2 expiring seats on the Planning Commission. Mayor and council members, you will have 15 minutes to interview each candidate. The timer will be set. Once the orange light lights up, it will indicate when the applicant has 5 minutes remaining. We will begin with the applicants from the Design Review Commission. The first interview is with Raymond Cheng, applicant for the Design Review Commission.
Good evening, Raymond. I just wanted to thank you for your willingness to serve. I know you've served the city well in the past, so appreciate you coming back.
Thank you, Mayor.
So tonight, we're going to have interviews for the design review. We're going to have a few minutes from questions from each of us, 1 or 2 short questions. Hopefully get a couple minutes to just have some back and forth with each council member.
Absolutely.
And then I'll just, so with that, I'll just ask the first question. So Raymond, I know you've served in the past on the Design Review Commission. I just wanted to ask you, with your past experience and basically your knowledge with San Gabriel, what interests you in wanting to come back on the commission?
Thank you. I guess it's the reward that you get at the end, seeing the project get completed. We usually hear back from the community or from the council or from the neighbors that that is a good project, or this is not a good project, or we got some problems. So we learned over the years as to what will be the right thing to do when we consider a similar project next time. Over these years accumulation of experience, I've learned quite a bit, meaning that whether it's a commercial project or it's a residential project, we try to listen to the community and we try to learn from our own decision and try to come up with the best solution for the city at large. And that, I think that's important. Because of that, I love the city dearly for all this, my entire professional life. So I just wanted to continue to serve the city. I hope that answered part of the question you have.
That's great, thank you. So next, we'll start with Vice Mayor Wu.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Raymond.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Okay, so according to your affiliation, that you're currently serving as a commissioner of for City of San Marino and also a design review committee, and that was from 2003 to 2006 and 2020 to present. So if you get appointed, are you also serving the same position in City of San Marino?
I'm currently on the San Marino Design Review Commission, or they call it committee. So it's not a full commission, it's a committee. I've been there for also a few years. Yes, as a matter of fact, when I was serving here, I also served in the San Marino at the same time. I live in San Marino on Lorraine Road, which is 1 block from San Gabriel. The thing is this, this commission does not require residency in San Gabriel. But because I own property in San Gabriel, I worked here for many, many years, and so I know the city well. I will continue to serve in San Marino, and there are certain properties that I have in San Marino and I have in San Gabriel. I work on a couple of cases where the front is on San Gabriel, the backyard in San Marino. That was interesting that I get to view those properties. So yes, I will continue to serve on the San Marino Design Review Committee, but not on the commission. Not that I already finished my planning commission years ago.
Well, thank you. Yeah, because San Marino is our, another lovely neighboring city, and I believe that your experience will be helping, to collaborate better ideas how to develop the city. But also, how do you envision your role on a design review commission?
My role as an architect, as a general contractor, as a real estate broker, and a former developer, I wore different hats over my entire career. I served on the California Architects Board, licensing architects in California. So I worked for City of LA when I first started graduated. So I wear the city hat before, I wear the developer hat before, I wear the architect's hat before, and architect regulators before. I kind of understand that what it takes from different perspective doing it. So what I hope to do is to basically use my experience from different perspective and understand what they need and try to get the best decision to get the best outcome. I would say that would be my best thing. And also, being a Asian American, I know the culture a little bit also of some of the applicants. So sometimes I can resolve some of their cultural concerns. I also been here for many, many years, and since the 60s. And so I also understand what needs to be preserved in the city of San Gabriel. So I try to use that different knowledge background to make the best decision for the city. That's what I hope to do.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Next up will be Councilmember Chan.
Hello, Mr. Chang.
How are
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I wanted to know a little bit more about how you mentioned that you have or are currently serving on the San Marino Commission,
Correct.
or equivalent to the commission, and then also applying to serve on our commission. Just concerned a little bit, you don't see if there might be any conflict between serving on both commissions, or you see it more as compatible?
The way I see it, absolutely not.
Okay.
I mean, our streets, there's a couple of streets that have in San Marino, have in San Gabriel. Okay. But the landscape is the same. The street tree is the same. As a matter of fact, when we were redoing our planning for the San Gabriel design guideline, a lot of these thoughts of preserving the greenery, anti-mentionization, make sure the properties are compatible with the existing neighborhood, were actually, in fact, something that we consider in San Gabriel, borrowing some of the knowledge how San Marino works so hard to preserve their community. It just preserving mature trees, try to make the architecture compatible with the other, and the streetscape and the cityscape become one of the most important thing. And I think from our design guideline, we use those principles to preserve our community
Okay.
residentially.
So they're very compatible and very similar kind of,
Yeah, we want to make sure our citizen, whether you live in San Marino or in San Gabriel, you still want the best community there is. Having great landscaping, quiet, safe trees and streets and buildings, and preserving architecture, keeping all the good heritage building. I think it's the same idea, and the mission and the vision should be the same. So I don't see any conflict at all. Besides, I don't do any development now. I work at City-Sinai Medical Center, building hospitals, saving lives. So I don't do anything that would jeopardize any decision. I don't usually have to excuse any of my project because I don't get involved with the development anymore.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
What I have.
Thank you. Next is Councilmember Ding.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chen. Okay, I saw you already served this design board, our city, almost 24 years, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Right
okay.
around there. Yes.
yeah, and so yeah, it's also currently we have a lot of the development for our project. I think to the almost 19 project, right? That's recently you mostly involved too, right? For the all this kind of project.
For the
right?
previous years, yes, I have done. I've seen the city develop over the years. It's mostly in the correct direction, and very pleased to see some high quality developments in the city.
Okay, so you're still interested for our design commissioner because you want the feedback from the current development, what they think about. Do you have any right now get the feedback? Because I saw we not finished yet, right? No project finished yet, right? For this 19 one. Is there anyone the city manager?
Of those 19, I don't know that we've signed off on any of those, but a couple are very close to being.
It's a close, okay. Yeah, some I saw that it's outside, it's designer. But I just question, you're really interested, do you have any chance to listen the community to get the feedback? Then for the...
I left a year ago. I was out of the country. I missed the filing deadline on my when my term's up. So I missed it last year. I would have been still on the commission because when you do something for 20-something years without pay, you gotta love it to do it. It's
Okay.
not the money
All
that
right.
keep me back. So yes, I enjoy doing it. I enjoy seeing the final outcome when the project got finished. I like to see that. It's almost having the same joy as seeing a baby is born. You work on it hard. About a year and a half, 2 years later, the building is finished and the baby is born, and you want to see that. And there was a few projects I worked on getting the approval, like the medical project on Las Tunas and next to San Gabriel Hospital. We worked really hard for almost like 2.5 years on the design. They finally got the approval, and I like to see it finish and learn from it. Did we
Okay.
do all the suggestion? They took it seriously. I want to see it come out right. So yeah, there are certain projects I'm very proud of that
Okay.
I've worked on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, first of all, also say thank you this kind of volunteer serve that almost 24 years, and thank you. You still have a heart to come to see what's going on. Another question, if based on the current the development, if for the future the new development, did you have any concern about the future development as some idea? Because I just tell the community, some people it's like it, our development, but some people say maybe we too much development. So did you any concern about that?
This body that I'm talking to set the direction of the future of the city. The general plan requires how the direction of the city grow is. You actually are the one that making that important decision whether, well, I want to see something happen in San Gabriel Boulevard or Las Tunas or Valley Boulevard. I think that the general direction of the city together with the citizen support, whether we want to be like San Marino, residential 100% or 98%, or we want to have controlled growth in certain area for commercial and high-end residential. I think the direction from this body become extremely important. We commissioners carry out what your vision is. We want to make sure that if you want to encourage commercial activities, we want to make sure the best commercial activities happen. If you want to keep the residential to a certain area direction, our job is to carry out what your vision is. And I think that's important. Of course, we give feedback to you too. If we see things that it's in the wrong direction, or we hear back from the citizen coming into our meeting complaining about the traffic, the noise, and the shadow and the privacy issue, we'll share that with you. I think it's important that the city council, the leadership, talk to the commissioners, the critical commissioners every so often to hear back from them. What do they see? Is in the right direction or is in the wrong direction? Or what can we do collectively to make it a better city? I think that's important.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm prepared for it anytime.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, thank you. Well, also the same question with the you also have the design committee with the San Bernardino. Okay, but did you have any very simple say that what's the difference with the San Bernardino and our San Gabriel City, the direction?
I guess the direction is that there is no commercial activities in San Marino, very few, except just the Mission District, a couple of streets, and 100 Drive, a couple of buildings. So they almost 100% on residential or in the 90s. So their way to keep it, their city father back 100 years ago said that we want to keep this heavy landscaping. You can't cut trees in San Marino. You cut a tree, you need to put two back. So you take one, you put two back. So you always get double the stock. So it's important that that's why it's got so many trees in there. They also want to keep the city from looking pretty much the same. I'm just sharing that with you. Meaning that even to do a new building or a new remodeling, it should look pretty much like it used to be. So the window quality, the roofing, all those have become very important elements. So we, as a commissioner design review member, we want to make sure that got adhered so that 20, 30 years from now, we still got the same look. St. Gabriel, and on the other hand, I think it's a lot of changes, and I think it's important for us to get through those changes, again, under your leadership. And we'll be working together closely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Was that a warning signal?
Yeah, that's our time to conclude. But I wanted to thank you for coming out, Raymond, and we really do appreciate your willingness to serve. Just so you know, we're going to be doing the deliberation and the voting on Tuesday, the meeting on Tuesday. You're welcome to join us here or watch on YouTube.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening. Thank you.
The next interview is with Sean Hughes.
Good evening, Sean. Thank you. I'd like to thank you for volunteering. We always appreciate it when residents step up to serve. We know it takes a lot of time and a lot of away from other things you could be enjoying your time with. So we thank you. So we're going to have all four of us ask you a few questions and then get your answers. So I think we'll start with Vice Mayor Wu this time.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Mr. Hughes. Well, thank you very much for applying for this position. I do see that you are a professor of architecture in Rio Hondo College.
Yes, yes, I am.
And for how many years?
I've been teaching. I started as a part-time instructor there. I believe I've been full-time for about 8 years now, and that with about 3 to 4 years, I think, that preceded that as an adjunct.
I see. So I also see that, I'm glad to see that you and your family are very happy to be in our city of St. Gabriel.
Yes.
That you have been living here for 15 years.
Yes.
So you really know, you know our city well. So what do you see the biggest challenge related to development for St. Gabriel?
You know, I look around at other cities in the area, and as they've worked through their development, and I know that there's obviously it's a complex. It seems rather complex trying to make sure from a city standpoint that that we get. Whether it be from residential projects or mixed-use projects or commercial projects, that kind of check all the boxes, maybe that make sure to bring in revenue to the city. That obviously businesses that do that satisfy the needs or the desires of the residents. And so finding a good balance, finding an appropriate balance is probably a key thing that I'm looking for, or that I would think that we're looking for. Again, I look around at some of the other cities in the area and what they've done, and if I want to have an evening out, maybe go to Old Town Pasadena or Alhambra and walk around. And is that something that we want? And do we want it as much? Do we want something that is kind of heading towards that way, but maybe not, is a little less crowded or has some other priorities? So again, finding the right balance between everybody involved, like I said, whether it be the residents, the local residents, people visiting here, as well as the businesses that are going to come here for those purposes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Councilmember Chan.
Professor Hughes, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
A question, I was looking at your information here, and one thing I was noticing, so being a professor, I want to make sure that you will have enough time and flexibility in your schedule to make the investment to being at the meetings that your committee will be having, has. Will that be difficult or pretty easy to work around, or?
I appreciate the question. No, not at all. Actually, I'm in a position when I'm teaching that I generally have a great amount of flexibility. I'm already looking towards, okay, my fall schedule and when I'm teaching there, and then that pretty soon I'm going to be planning for spring. And so generally, I have the ability to adjust that schedule. I'm currently adjusting it with young kids and my wife, and you'll go get the kids on these days, and I'll pick them up on those, and it actually works quite well for us. That, of course, works when I am aware of things in advance. When things do come up as emergencies, again, I've got that flexibility that's actually becoming even easier with a lot of academic institutions that can, maybe not all the time, but can move towards like an online, a remote teaching, things like that. So that's happened over the last couple of years as we've come back since staying away from COVID, because of COVID. We've had the opportunity to, hey class, today we're going to be online, or I'm going to do a recorded lecture. So even that's been available to me in more emergency situations. But yeah, usually I know way in advance what that schedule is going to be.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Next will be Councilmember Ding.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, the Professor Hughes, and too interesting for the apply this warranty job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So you are professor. The first question is based on the current we have a lot of development in our city, right?
Mm-hmm.
Almost 19 projects.
Mm-hmm.
So for your your current viewing is that's overdevelopment or it's neither it's a good direction or like for your think about it.
You know, in order to answer that question completely, I'd like to get, I'd want to know a lot more about the projects themselves and
Okay.
the scope and the magnitude of those projects. Are you talking about with just like workload, or are you talking about within the city? Is it
It was in city, so
Yeah. Again, if it's projects that are maybe like one, one project is it's removing something that's been here for a certain amount of time and simply replacing it. I think that's something that would really kind of work into the mix. Is it something that maybe has been vacant and we're trying to develop something large that's going to involve issues with traffic that may have carry a little bit more weight as far as wait a minute, that might be considered overdevelopment. I'm not saying it is, I'm saying knowing what the specifics of those projects are. 19 definitely sounds like a bit, so it absolutely is worthy of a good amount of consideration. Wait a minute, is that, but again, it really depends on how big they are, what they're really involving. So I wish I could give you a more exact answer of yes it is or no it's not, but I wouldn't want to make that determination without really understanding what they are. Just a count may not be, just the number 19 may not be enough to really fully make that determination.
Thank you. Another question: if because in the committee, how do you separate your personal design like and a dislike for the
That's sorry. One of the things that I would try to do on a commission like this, and even what I do maybe when I'm teaching or when I'm doing some of my other professional activities, I'm very careful about what hat I'm wearing. As in, if I have a certain responsibility in a job, yes, I am me as a person. I have my personal opinions, but when I'm put in a role of responsibility, what I am very serious about is, do my personal opinions get to play that role? What am I if I'm here to if I'm in a position to represent a constituency, then what is the will of that constituency? If I'm sometimes, if you look at the resume, sometimes I'm enforcing a code as a plan checker. Wait a minute. My views on what should or shouldn't be the case isn't necessarily what this code has been written to indicate, and so I'm there enforcing code. So yes, of course, I'm human, and I will have my opinions on things, but before coming to any final decision, it is important for me to know who am I supposed to be, what thought process am I supposed to be considering when coming to any final determinations.
Thank you,
Okay.
Professor Hughes.
Sure.
Thank you, Sean. So I wanted to know, that I liked that answer, and it kind of triggered something else. When you're reviewing individual projects or someone submitting something, and let's just say it doesn't fit, you don't like the way something looks, and you think it could be enhanced, how do you approach that as far as from a commission with a developer or with a project owner?
Delicately is the easy first answer, but again, treading lightly, I like the idea of maybe asking questions. Hey, have you considered this, or did you put thought into this? I like the idea of if somebody is going to propose something, have they thought about it thoroughly? Have they considered it from all the angles, and is what we're seeing their honest best attempt at something? And so, again, with consideration of what hat I get to wear and what eyes I get to look at it with, if there's something that maybe I think could be done better, maybe a little bit of, possibly some gentle nudging or prompting to, hey, have you considered it from this angle? If you considered some other possibilities, just to at least ensure that if they have considered it and rejected it, it'd be nice to know why. If they haven't considered it, maybe we're on the same page and we just didn't know it yet. Maybe they didn't know it yet. If that makes sense.
Perfect.
Okay.
So being a professor, are you going to require your students to attend meetings? If you
That's
get
a great extra credit. I'm sure they'd love it.
Yeah, all seriousness, is there anything you think we have a few minutes, if you want to tell us something about yourself that that we may not know, or it might be interesting to know as far as for the commission work?
You know, I think about this, and I think the easier answer is, and you've seen, I've lived here for a while, and as I chatted with the other applicants in the room, I think everybody is interested in serving and interested in being more involved in the community, and stepping up and playing a part. I think of stuff about myself. I like having, as you can see from the resume, and again, I've got to be conscious of my time and what what time I have available in my life to put forth. But I like all of the opportunities that I take advantage of. I like being a professor. I still like doing plan check, doing structural engineering. I like being involved, and somewhere along the way, I kind of feel like I got up, I grew older, I'm getting a little bit more gray hair, and it seems like as I discuss things with people, I am, and again, I hope this doesn't sound egotistical, I am in the know more than I was when I was, in my early 20s or something like that. And so I think that's, whether you need to know it or not, that's kind of one thing that I like bringing to the table. And so if I am somebody that's appropriate for the job, great. If not, we have other people, and I'll continue to continue to look for opportunities to stay involved in the community and put forth those ideas, those opinions as I can. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure.
I think that's all the questions we have. So just so you know, we're going to be deliberating and deciding on Tuesday's meeting.
Okay.
So if you want to come to the council meeting and watch the live deliberation or watch on YouTube, you're more than welcome.
Understood. There's some extra credit. We'll do that in class.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Our next interview is with Luya Tu, applicant for Design Review Commission.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So tonight we're going to have questions from each of the council members. I just wanted to thank you for stepping up and volunteering to serve. We always appreciate that. So I wanted to see, so I don't say your name incorrectly, how do I pronounce your name?
Lawyer.
Loya. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
Perfect.
So Loya, your first question tonight will come from Councilmember Chan.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Ms. Tu. You have a very extensive, impressive resume. Let me ask you, how do you see the development of our city in terms of what you'd like to see, how you'd like to see development happen? Just your personal sense of the city and what direction we're going in.
Yes, thank you for the question. As a matter of fact, that was one of the main reasons I'm interested in serving in the DRC, because I feel like the direction San Gabriel is going is really aligned with what my vision of a livable and a modern future city would be. Because I am originally from China, and I grew up in those higher density urban area, and really adapt to the lifestyle that has a lot of mixed use, and then the neighborhood and the community was planned and designed the way that is really walkable and is really pedestrian friendly. So when I found out that City of San Gabriel actually really welcomed those mixed use projects, and particularly in the last 4 years when I served in the board, and I actually personally approved a lot of those projects. That is a really exciting experience for me. And I think it's one of the main idea is really adaptable, and also is a healthy and a sustainable way for the city to grow, to be able to plan and design a mixed city.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be from Councilmember Ding.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Tu, okay. Yeah, thank you to serve the last couple years serve our designing board, okay. And yeah, my question is, yeah, I know that we recently approved like a lot of mixed use, a lot of development. So because communities they also have some response, it's really like it. Some maybe say, hey, maybe developed too much. So for the future, so what do you have the vision, or how do you think about how to balance this kind of the development?
Yes. Yes, actually, when I look back, there is a period of time that many of those projects happen at the same time. Then maybe there's economic factors behind that. And I was personally worried that it's been overbuilt. But I don't have like a lot of data to support because I was serving as a design review commissioner. I'm not in the planning, so that what we were focused on was about the design guideline. It fits the neighborhood. We didn't really go into the performer and if it's really meeting the supply, are we supplying more than the city can take? So I think that was my personal worry when I was looking back. I think there is more about the city can be paying a lot more attention on the overall balance of the project. We know in the past few years the interest rate is just like given a lot of motivation for the development, and we actually approve and review so many projects, but has been slowing down recently. So I think there's a lot of economic factor in the background, and I wish we can do more in design review commission, but it seems like it's a bit of a planning commission's scope of work. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So based on your this 4 years, and you think what's the bigger challenge for you?
Sorry.
Actually, it's a bigger challenge related to development.
You mean the
Challenge. Yeah.
The challenge, my challenge, or the
The
challenge?
designer, yeah, San Gabriel designer the challenge. Yeah.
So the challenge for getting through the design review board approval, or
Yeah. So when they design, I mean the design. So it's, for example, it's based on current project. Maybe you can know something, but for the future, so you think as a big challenge, we want more variety, or more just like, or every building should be similar looks like. Yeah, that's my question too. Yeah.
I think one of the criteria one of the really important criteria for us to review and evaluate a project in the design review board is actually if the project fits into the surrounding. If that project is actually contextually associated with the neighborhood and the community. And at the same time, I think the city of San Gabriel is pretty diverse, and it has a historic area with mission. I mean, this is like it's really unique in a way, but at the same time, like along Las Tunas and San Gabriel and Valley Boulevard, we actually see a lot more modern contemporary buildings. So it actually, I think it would be more or less like a case by case. We cannot just say that, oh, we want the city to be more modern, or we want the city to be more historically associated. So I think it really comes down to each neighborhood, each the pocket of that neighborhood. When we look at the project, we need to understand it contextually, so that we can make a wiser decision.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, as your experience on the commission, was there ever a project that you didn't like the design for, and you had to approach the project, either the owner of the project or their representatives, and kind of give them guidance as to what you think would be maybe a better design or something that fits better with the neighborhood they're building in? An example of that, if that's happened?
Yes, as an architect myself, I'm practicing architect. So, and I've also done a lot of projects in both in China and United States. I have my personal, style. But that's one of the something I learned from this commission when I served for the board. Actually, that it's not about my personal preference. It's actually about how the project, how to help the applicant, how to help the project can be better suited to the site, to the city. It's not necessarily like a black or white situation. I remember there was a project that is like a really traditional style, which is not really my personal flavor, and I personally have not done a design like that before. But the principle of a good design is the same. So it's about the proportion, it's about the materiality, and it's about how to respond to the end user, the human being, how to create the experience. So all those principles, they are universal. So with that, I can guide the applicant or the architect through this process to actually to meet the standard or exceed the standard of the city, of the design board. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. And next is Vice Mayor Wu.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi.
Hey.
Thank you so much for your service, especially you have to
You're
drive
welcome.
all the way from San Pedro.
Yes.
Yes. And you are also a member and also the Vice President of CACP.
Oh, it's a past vice president.
Okay,
Yes.
I see. Well, and your resume is pretty impressive because it seems you have a lot of you've been received a lot of awards from both in China and the United States. So if we say a developer or applicants, they submit something, it doesn't really look very feasible to our city, but they just follow everything is correctly. They follow the codes, the building codes. But for you, you're such a great designer, and you don't feel this is a good design. How you deal with the developers or the projects? If they meet all the standard, you feel anything that you can do to improve it?
Yes, thank you for the question. First of all, thank you for the compliment. Yes, I am an award-winning architect, but the nature of my work is really different from the projects that I am reviewing here. When I don't like a project the developer or the applicant is doing, it must be something that is not right. I mean, in terms of the fundamental of the project or the design, is not about like my personal standard of design, because the design is really complex and also diverse, and also the design needs to serve the purpose. So the right design is actually the answer for this site and the answer for the purpose of the development. So if I really don't like them, I need to ask myself what's wrong with that. And if there's something that can help the developer to improve the project, that's great, so that I can articulate my idea, and hopefully they can accept that and improve their project accordingly. It just like, sometimes it's difficult because if it's a developer, it's easier. But a lot of times when we review project that was done by non-licensed professional, and that is a lot of barriers the applicant has to go through in order to meet the requirement. A lot of times we just have to reject the project, have them go back and improve the design and improve the documentation before we can approve it. So the last meeting on Monday this week, we actually rejected 2 projects that was recommended to be approved by the planner, because it doesn't meet our standard. So yeah, that's what I would do. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So with that, that's all the questions. Is there anything that you think the council should know about you that might, that maybe is unique, or something that you'd just like to share with us while we have remaining time?
Yes, I remember the first interview, I was asked that why will you come to San Gabriel when you're not living here, and then it's from LA, or now it's in San Pedro. I am a practicing architect in the city of Los Angeles, and I don't live in San Gabriel, but I feel like I am home here. I come here for school when like about 15 years ago, and after I graduated, I become architect back in 2012. So I started practicing architecture, and I flew back and forth between China and LA for a lot of international projects. During COVID, there's a lot of travel restriction, so my focus was more like towards to the domestic project now. So I feel like it's kind of like, I became a design commissioner before COVID, but it kind of like leading my way to more to home. So I think that is one thing I really enjoy, and I learned so much from my colleague, my fellow commissions, and made me become a better architect. So I do want everybody here know that I really appreciate the experience, and I do enjoy being the commissioners, and I hope I can continue to serve the community.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. So on Tuesday, we're going to be doing our deliberations and our appointments. So you're welcome to either come join us again in the audience or watch us on YouTube. So we really appreciate you coming out tonight, Leo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Our next interview is with Erlinda Romo, applicant for the Design Review Commission.
Good evening, Erlinda.
Good evening.
We appreciate you showing up and volunteering. We always like to see volunteers. We do appreciate your service to the city. So tonight, all four of us will be asking some questions regarding the commission. And so we'll kick it off with Councilmember Ding.
Hi, Linda. Thank you to serve the design board. Currently, you are chair, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So thank you for service. First question is, how do you see our biggest challenge related to the current development for the San Gabriel City?
So I think the biggest challenge for the city of San Gabriel is to strive to be better and implement those plans however they may be. Because if you don't want to be better, then you stagnate in, where you are. And everything in life and the economy is dynamic, so you have to be forward-thinking in order to move ahead. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge for the city, is to get the right minds together on the city council, with staff. I know Mark is newish to the city and stuff, but it's steering a ship with lots of minds to go in a good, positive direction for the city.
Okay. And the second question is, how do you balance for current our development? Some residents really like the development. Some it's say maybe too much. So how do you balance that? Yeah.
So the city has laws, basically, when you look at your zoning code, your specific plans, and your general plans. So even if someone doesn't like it, those are the rules for developing houses or commercial development. And if it's up to council to change those rules and to do a change in the municipal code, specific plan, that's going to take a very long time. So you have to be forward-thinking in how, as council members, you want the city to grow. But you're not going to be able to please everyone. So you have to you have to do your best. So.
Thank you for your answer.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Linda. So I have a question. So when you have been on the commission, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of projects come through, do you have an example of maybe when you saw a project you just thought the design didn't work for the neighborhood, or you thought maybe there was just some elements that just weren't compatible in how you approached that?
Yes. So there was a project on the DRC that probably came to us about before COVID. And it was a single-family residence on Fairview. And the design was to tear down the house and build a two-story house, which is allowable. And my comment to the commissioners was, the house, as designed by the architect, was a beautiful Spanish colonial revival home. But when you look at Fairview, when you look at the essence of that neighborhood, and this house is going to be the first two-story house, we were able to say, let's look at contextual design. The homeowners never came back, but that would have been a house that would have changed the character of that street. For the most part, the commissioners, they're all respectful of one another, and so we listen, we learn, and for the most part, we vote in unanimously. And in this case, that was something that I brought up because I know the city more than some of the other people, and they appreciated my comment and they supported what I was recommending.
Thank you. So Vice Mayor Wu.
Well, Linda, thank you so much for your service. How do you evaluate? I know that the place that where you're living right now is more like a single-family residence, and on Las Tunas, we are having several projects that's being completed, but we still have vacant lands there. So I have heard some complaints about, oh, you guys have overdeveloped the Valley Boulevard. There's so many mixed use, but when there is a mixed use, that for our community, that means maybe the land is very limited or the land is so expensive, so we have to make that a little bit high rise. How do you evaluate the projects now overall in our city? In which projects, or if you don't have to name them, but which project that you feel impressed you the most, and which one that you think, well, or why a project that will disappoint you, but you have to prove them?
So, I live just north of Las Tunas, so what happens on Las Tunas affects my neighborhood. There was a project that was proposed at the corner of Las Tunas and Santa Anita, and this is on the southwest corner. So first of all, going back to what I was saying about the rules for the city. So a development could be 5 stories tall. So how do you get that envelope with that 5 stories so it fits within the community? When I was working, I spent a lot of time working in Pasadena, and in Pasadena there were some things that they did to make developments that were multi-story, mixed use, make them more pedestrian oriented. So looking at that, there was this project that their architect was from Orange County, and it was medical office with ground floor commercial. So I looked at that pedestrian level. How is that going to feel for the pedestrian? And the initial design was a step down for the commercial. So the sidewalk's up there and the commercial would be down here where I am. So you'd have like a 4-foot drop. So that's going to fail. You're going to have vacancies on the ground floor. And they were also looking at very hard surfaces and a very strong beam to support the multi-stories above it, right at that corner. So I looked at different examples. I actually went to San Francisco and was looking at the tall buildings and see how they did their developments, knowing that you're going to have multi-levels, but that ground floor is key. So this development, based upon the DRC's recommendation and discussions, we didn't approve it the first time around, nor the second time around. And the third time around, they got the concept. Build that street frontage that's at the pedestrian level, build that with amenities for the people, because that's what people see for the most part. People don't like the hype, but once again, council is the only one who can change that. It's not going to be the DRC. You're looking at council to change the existing rules in order for something to be lower. And I used to work in economic development, so those rules, if you say commercial, it's going to be commercial. You're not going to be very specific as, no, we want this commercial or not that other commercial. So that's something that just to be aware of.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erlinda. So that's the extent of our questions. Is there anything you think the council should?
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going
That's all right.
rotation, so I
It's
forgot.
okay.
There is one more. Sorry.
Hi there, Linda. Thanks for coming. And I was just real quick, we just wanted to get your sense for what you, and personally, what you would like to see structurally in our city. Your personal preference in terms of more mixed use or different kinds, or or does it depend on the area, or which, because I know you know the city very well, with just different parts of the city that you think are more amenable to either mixed use, more mixed use, or areas that you wish they didn't have as much, or you want to keep it as residential and lower level, lower and not as high height building as some.
So I think, number one, the R1 neighborhoods should be protected like crazy. And that's first and foremost. Right now, the rules are for the commercial corridors to allow for that mixed use. I do think San Gabriel is at a very interesting flux right now because it has catered for several years to the Asian community, and that's what we get written up about. It's the restaurants that are here in San Gabriel. When my family wants to come, it's like, okay, what Chinese food? Where can we go? Have you tried have you been here? Have you been that? Look at the LA Times. San Gabriel is getting notoriety for the Asians that are here and their investment. So I think you have this level. The next level is going to be to get the children of the initial investors to invest. So there is a coffee house near where 7-Eleven is, Bofo Mofo. This is a second generation individual opened that place up. All these hipsters, all these young kids. The youth of tomorrow is going to save the city. So how do we encourage that investment and make that a reality? And I'm not Asian, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I'm learning about the food. I've learned about some about the culture, and that's a good thing. Before people with money, they traveled for their education because to know about food, culture, language was a way to make that happen. William Randolph Hearst, his son, mom took him out of school, and they traveled for 3 years. Here in San Gabriel, you don't have to travel because you hear English, Spanish, Vietnamese. You can be involved in more of a cultural experience, and I think that's pretty cool.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mayor?
That was the last of our questions. So is there anything that you'd like the council to know, or anything you think that would be good information for us to have about why you want to be on the commission, or just anything in general?
Well, I think I bring a different perspective. I bring a perspective as a resident. My husband and I have lived in San Gabriel for 33 years. I worked in economic development. I worked for the city of San Gabriel. I've worked for the city of Pasadena. I learned through working. I learned what it was to be a good employee, to have a good mind, to listen to other people. And I think those are the qualities of a good commissioner, because you have to listen to what's being proposed. You have to learn from the designs. So my perspective, I'm not an architect, but I look at that kind of, that curb appeal. And then I bring on, for the commercial development, my economic development hat and my training in downtown revitalization, and looking at making sure that ground floor is going to activate foot traffic. There may not be foot traffic now, but when you're building mixed-use projects, you have 50 or more residential units. Those people are going to be walking. And if someone parks their car, they're going to get out of the car and walk. So that's important.
Very well, thank you. So we're going to be doing our deliberations and our decision on Tuesday, so you're welcome to join us in the council chambers or watch us on YouTube. So thank you.
Well, I'm going to watch you. Thank you.
We're going to get our highest views on Tuesday. Commissioner?
Our next interviews will be for Historic Preservation and Cultural Resource Commission. The first applicant you will interview is Kyle DeVrine.
Good evening, Kyle.
Evening, how are you?
I am well, thank
Good,
you.
Good.
How are you doing? You feeling good?
I'm good, yeah,
right.
I'm good.
So we're gonna have each council member is gonna be asking you a question, get about your about the historic preservation, and I think we're starting with Councilmember Ding.
Okay.
Was it your turn or to start? Oh, we already rotated. Wow, we're on full rotation. Sorry about that. Caught myself off guard. So I wanted to know about the commission and your role on it. I know you've served, and we do appreciate that. So as a commissioner, what I'd like to know from your experience, I know the commission hasn't met as much as some other commissions, so is that something you think the commission should be meeting more regularly? Is that, or what was your feelings about the commission and having served on it?
Yeah, having served, I think meeting more frequently would be a benefit for sure, just to kind of keep the momentum of certain certain projects going. As of now, we've worked on the historical context statement, land acknowledgement statement, the district, the designations throughout the city, and everything, creating those foundational components that are kind of needed to move forward a little bit now. And now that those are established and are moving forward, I think that meeting more frequently in these cases would help to start kind of forming together what the next steps of the commission would be. So. And that is looking at for instance, maybe looking at those designated areas and seeing, what we can do to present those to the community and to kind of establish more of the historical significance of the community and things like that. If we were meeting together more frequently, I think as a group we would be able to ideate a little bit more and get those and get some momentum going to help with that. So yeah, taking a long way here, but yes, I think meeting more frequently would definitely be beneficial.
Perfect, thank you. Next is Vice Mayor Wu.
Hi, Kyle. Thank you so much for your service for 2 terms as commissioner. And so since you have served like 2 terms, and what do you see the biggest challenge that related to preservation for St. Gabriel?
I think is just to find that, like as I had mentioned, just a couple of minutes ago, that the foundation is there of what we, the historical context statement, kind of laying out how the city was formed, what areas are significant, what architectural designs and things were significant at that time for each one of these areas. And now I think that the key to that is just kind of getting more of the momentum in the direction going on that. And to see, so the challenges are, we live in a very historical city. And I think everybody knows that on the surface, but what that really means to the community and how do you protect that for the community, I think is the biggest challenge for that. Protecting it, I don't think is necessarily a huge concern, because I think when you mention San Gabriel and you mention the city, I think people already, it's a historical city, right? So I do think that I think educating the city more, the members of the city more on the importance of the history of the city will help make people more aware of what they live in, how they live, the city that they live in, and the value of those historical areas and the historical significance of it. So I think that is just the challenge, is getting people engaged in that, and more of at more of a fundamental level of getting engagement, not just at the visceral level. Yes, we live in San Gabriel; it's a historical city, but to have people really look at how can we protect that and how can we preserve what we have here. I think that's the biggest challenge right now.
And do you think that, since you probably have seen that our city, we have many new projects, and is it true that you think that maybe the new if we are having new projects, that will, another way is we are, eliminating, or it will be hurting or become a threat to the preservation of our city? Is that always the case, or you think there will be a balance?
I think it's a balance. I don't think that new development necessarily means that the historical significance of the city goes away. I think that having a historical commission in place to look at those developments and to have the documents to preserve or to prove that these areas are significantly historical or historically significant, and to make development more aware of those, I think is more what the commission would be about, not necessarily stopping development or moving forward. So so that's what I think the role of the historical commission is, to educate on those aspects of development.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next will be Councilmember Chan.
Hello, Kyle.
Good evening.
Thanks for coming out. I'd like your answer to that last question there. You've given me something to think about. But for me, more specifically, are there any specific projects, or again, as you've been on the commission a couple of terms, have there been any specific projects or tasks or even specific properties that you've worked on or would like to see preserved? Yeah, because we talk about the like the answer you just gave about the philosophical, the making sure that there's a right balance and educating the current residents of the historical significance, but yeah, I'm asking more any in your experience on the commission, any specific projects or tasks that you've worked on or would like to see worked on in that way.
Yeah, the one that always comes to mind for me is the San Gabriel Village, right? I think that is, as you're driving down Del Mar, you see the sign, right? San Gabriel Village, neon sign, everything. And I think people in the community understand that there's this village that's there. But I don't think they understand really what that village, was about. It was a planned community, I believe in 1931, and it was supposed to be, you have that little commercial area that's in the middle of it, and that people who lived in that community could go grocery shopping there or do all of these, because it was planned in that way. And I would love to see something done with that. I know that there's, that's an area that I think should be protected for sure, because of that significance, and a very, a very cool area in the city for sure. And I would love to see that one, that's protected. And of course, the Mission District down here, of course, with Blossom Market, was a very significant success, I believe, as far as taking an existing building and doing exactly what should be done with it, preserving the exterior for it, but taking it and making a new usage out of it that doesn't impact negatively in this area. So just to kind of sum up what, with that, I love the village. I think that that's one area that I would love to see, whether or not it's designated as a historical area here in the city. That's something that I really feel is something that the city would benefit from on that one. So,
great, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councilmember Ding.
Hi, Kyle. Thank you. Served the Historical Commission. It's 2 terms already, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay. So also just want to double check. So it's you reviewed which one projects really relate to the historic preservation for us the development, or how many projects you within these 4 years?
You know, there hasn't been a lot of projects in review. From what I recall, I think most of it was getting the land acknowledgement statement created. That was one project. The historical context statement that was done were projects. As far as reviewing projects of buildings, there was the refurbishing of the facade of the playhouse, right? We looked at that, and there was a architectural design, I believe, within the San Gabriel village that we looked at and weighed in on that. But as far as there being a big project, those three that I mentioned were the big ones, and that was basically to get the foundation of this commission established, so we can move forward and hopefully do really great things within the community to preserve the city in that respect. So I hope that answers your question. If that
Yes,
okay.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. Really, you bring a lot of what is the 4 year you did it. It's a good job.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
for your committee. And another, I think it's where a lot of the historical building, but one it's a very important building. It's Mission Playhouse, almost 100 years. Did you have any vision if 100 years what a Mission Playhouse should be? Do something?
Yeah, I mean, that's, that is one of the areas that I feel I work in the entertainment industry. And so to see this, I would love to see a few more things happening in to kind of exemplify what this theater is in the middle of our city here. I know they have a Wurlitzer organ in there, and they do the silent movies and everything else that goes on there. I would love to see more of that. That sort of some more plays, things that draw people in to the city. So. Yeah, I think that's one of the areas that I think that is kind of a hidden gem here. I mean, it's not really hidden; it's right there in the middle of it. But I feel like there could be a lot more that's done in that. And for the 100 years, for sure, it would be really great to see, to get people in there to really acknowledge what that place is, what it looks like inside. Hear that Wurlitzer, organ playing against silent movies that have been there. I mean, I know that goes on, but to get more and more involvement with that. So I think that's one area down here that I really think is something that we could really exemplifies the city here and the entertainment value. Bringing some entertainment down here, I think would be really great.
Okay, good. So my meeting also, if the commissioner, your historical commissioner, have any suggestion for our council member to see how do we celebrate the 100 years for the Mission Playhouse? That's the key.
Yeah, that's I will definitely think about that. I think I think like a silent movie festival, to have a real organist. That I know there are some in this city who play against the original silent films and things like that, to really, because we live in Los Angeles, that's a big part of it's a big industry here, right? And to see that and to bring that back to people, I think would be really a way to tie in a historical, archival component to celebrating 100 years. So that would be one of the things that I would love to see, a silent movie festival or any kind of a movie festival presented in there. So would be my suggestion.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Kyle. So is there anything else that you'd like the council to know, or anything you'd like to add that may help us make a determination?
No, I would, I mean, in my last, just an anecdote, of the importance of, preserving the history of cities. A couple of months ago, I was in Las Vegas for a soccer tournament, and was walking. One of my daughters wanted to walk down the Sunset Strip, not the Sunset Strip. I'm sorry, the Las Vegas Strip, and we were halfway down, and she says, "When are we going to get to When are we going to walk on the Strip?" And I said, "We've been on the Strip for the last 20 minutes." And she said, "Well, where's all the neon and the flashing lights and everything like that?" And it, that kind of hit me a little bit, in the idea, like, I'm not, what we do here is a little bit different than that for sure, but it kind of made me think of, wow, these kids see these in the movies, and they saw the Las Vegas Strip, with all these flashing lights, and it's not there anymore, right? And so I think that once you kind of pull the soul of something like that, of a city or whatever, away from it, you can still go to the downtown area of Las Vegas and see the old stuff, right? But I think that the minute you lose that in any kind of a city, is a tragedy. And so when sitting on the commission for me and making sure that we are preserving the historical areas of this city so that they are here for future generations, so people can walk down and go, "Oh, this is important," and it was important, I think is really crucial. So that's what I would love to continue to do on it. So,
Thank you. So appreciate all of your answers, and we will be making our deliberations and our decision on Tuesday's meeting.
okay.
You're welcome to join us here or watch us on YouTube.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody,
you.
for your
Thank
time.
you.
I really appreciate it.
Great. Have a good evening.
The next interview is with Teresa Martinez.
Good evening, Teresa. Thank you for stepping up and volunteering for this commission. We do appreciate when people come and volunteer their service, so thank you. So we're going to have some questions tonight from the council members regarding your application for the Historic Preservation and Cultural Resource Commission. So with this, I will start with Vice Mayor Wu.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Teresa.
Hi.
Well, I see that you're working for the Temple City School District,
Yes.
and you have passionate about the education and especially the child care, right?
Yes.
So, what brings you here, and why you're interested in volunteering in this Historical Preservation and Cultural, Resource Commission?
So the reason why my interest comes to San Gabriel is because my parents were both married here at the San Gabriel Mission. My father was a resident here of San Gabriel. He was born in 1933 and was a parishioner here of the mission, brought us every Sunday at 7 a.m., and he was also an usher. So my family has always been involved here, and so that means a lot to me, the city, the culture, the people, and also to know that even though years ago there was people who built this mission, we still have to teach the children that basically there's still history here. We still have to keep telling them about the Tongva Indians. We still have to keep telling them about Adobe. We need to explain to them that there's still history that needs to be uncovered and to be told and not forgotten. So it's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Councilmember Chan.
Hello, Ms. Martinez.
Hi,
Hi, thanks for coming out.
thank you.
My question for you is, serving on this commission, are there any specific projects or tasks or specific properties that you are specifically excited to work on in terms of preservation, or like that specifically you would like to see preserved, or certain maybe educational work done, like you said, educating the public.
Yes, I would like to open up and bring the dynamic of, get those field trips here to the mission. I want to make sure and make those ties and those entities to all the surrounding cities. And just to make sure that we know, and even though it's being, restructured, the fire and everything that has happened, to know that when things do go a different route, it doesn't matter how it happened, but we just move forward and show that there is going to be a rainbow at the end, and tell people that it's going to be good.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councilmember Ding.
Thank you, Mayor. What do you have any useful experience, the knowledge, or preservation what you can bring to the commission?
Yeah, I do know that, in the altar that's there in the San Gabriel Mission that was, burned and I still have pictures at home that have history of where the altar and the different, I would say, the saints and the angels, and I still have my parents' wedding album that shows all that. So that stuff and that history, if we can tie it to other people and everybody can share, and we have one day where we just culturally share it, we can bring our ideas together and people can share their stuff, because for so long in the past 3 years, people didn't share much because we were just closed up. But now that people are coming out again, we can start having outdoor activities where we can see and display pictures and show the history and bring it all alive again.
Thank you. Beside the mission, so what else you think our historical area?
There's a lot. The Playhouse. We have the Playhouse. I came as a child and saw Annie here in 1985. So I don't want to date myself, but you have so many different things here. There's a lot that your city offers that you can preserve and teach the children for generations to come.
Thank you.
Thank you. So another part of the serving on the commission is the dealing, or is kind of cataloging our historical neighborhoods, our historical areas, buildings. Do you have any experience in that type of work as far as working on
I
historical?
used to be part of a museum. It's called the La Historia Society, and that is the culture of El Monte, where people were sent to live in a certain area called Hicks. My grandfather actually had a farm here close to Duarte, and so during that time, he was given a lot of the farming tools from the people that were sent to Santa Anita. So therefore, in that museum, we preserve pictures, we preserve a lot of the history, whether it be, video recordings, whether it be kind of talk. There was also just historical facts of people and conversations. So that experience was bringing people together, showing them about the history, and then just, like I said, keeping that cycle going and not letting it stop.
Thank you. Do you have anything that you'd like the council to know, or maybe something that you think would help us deliberate and figure out why we should place you on the commission as opposed to maybe someone else? Or
I think I am a person that likes to seek information, kind of like the good trouble. If I don't have an answer, I will call friendly and find out. When I like to do any type of project, no matter what it is, I make friends, I talk to people. I'm very enthusiastic about the different things. I volunteered in the past. I've been a coach for the South El Monte Jets for over 5 years. That's all pure volunteer. So I would say my ability to speak and my ability to be around people is very, very comforting, and people remember. I remember that, or, it's just, I guess, a people person, I would say.
well, thank you. Any further questions from council? Thank you for coming this evening. So we're going to be deliberating and making our decision on Tuesday. So you're welcome to either join us here again, or you can watch us on YouTube.
Great. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
The next interview is with Eric Urena.
Good evening, Eric.
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thank you for coming out. We appreciate your service and stepping up to serve again, so
Yeah,
thank you.
for having me.
So tonight, we're going to have 4 questions, or maybe more than 4, but some questions from all 4 council members.
Okay.
So we will start this round off with Councilmember Chan.
Hello, Mr. Urena.
Hello, how you doing?
Doing okay, thanks. I see that you're currently on the commission, so thank you for serving. I wanted to ask you, especially as you are currently serving, in your experience so far, have there been any, or are there any specific projects or tasks or properties that you've already worked on or would like to see worked on in the city in terms of preservation or education or your plans that way?
Well, as far as the last 2 years, I mean, we did have the pandemic, so we were kind of limited to what we were doing. The first phase of it, I was basically virtual. But yeah, most of what we've been doing now is basically the context statement, the survey analysis they did at the city to kind of identify specific areas. I think we could expand on that a little bit more. I know there's I would say that the preservation of the city as iconic as it is, that's the only reason why I ever even applied for this. I mean, I know I personally have been here 15 years, and there's nothing more iconic than this backdrop, right? And I feel for a lot of the people that live here when, you know, they live in a community where they're used to having that as their morning view, and to see the possibilities of a brick wall being built, you know, 2-story building, 3-story building, and now you no longer have that view is really gut-wrenching to me. So those things I think are issues that I think it's not just facing here, but it's everywhere else. But as far as the amount of impact that I think I could do or the commission can do, I think we're just getting started with the context statement and the survey, and I'm hoping once that's solidified and finalized, I think we're going to be able to move forward a lot quicker. I think it's just took a lot of time to get to where we are today.
Great. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Councilmember Ding.
Thank you, Mayor. So based on these 2, so thank you for serve the commissioner last 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So you think is any like biggest challenge related to the preservation of San Gabriel?
My perspective is I think I know we have the ability to give the property owners an incentive to deem their property or even apply for the actual plaque, right, to deem it a historical landmark. I know there's a process for that. I haven't seen very many of those even applications come through since I've been here. I believe there's a handful that were processed and finalized and done before me. I think the biggest challenge is possibly getting that out more. I don't think people are aware of it. I think that's just my perspective. I just don't think we've done a good enough job to get that out there for people to actually even want to take the first steps and, you know, do the process, the application and the fee, and give themselves that little tax credit, right, that they can get for those few years afterwards. But I think that's the biggest challenge that we have. The process is there, but a lot of people that I've spoken to didn't even know the process existed, right? So I think there's a way that, you know, we could try to do something more informative. You know, social media seems to be the big thing right now. Everything's a 15-second clip, and that seems to be your world nowadays. Maybe that's can be something that we can look into, but for now, I think that's the biggest thing, is just getting the word out on what the Historic Preservation Commission actually does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Mayor? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I have a question for, since you've been on the commission, do you think there's any maybe overlooked areas or overlooked historical maybe features or just things that maybe the average person may not have seen that you think is worth a second look as far as preservation?
Yeah, that's hard to say. There's so much. There's so many different criteria that people can look at, not just an age, right, of the building, because I think most people are under the impression it's an old building, it's got to be historic, right? But, they could be the certain communities. I'm really hard-pressed to answer that because I know the hard work the architect firm that we got to do the survey is doing an excellent job doing the footwork and walking basically or driving by every community and identifying landmarks and architectural features and even landscape similarities in certain residences. I think after that is said and done, we could probably dissect it a little bit better. But unfortunately, like off the top of my head, there isn't like one community right now that I think is severely overlooked. I wish I could just put a bubble over the whole city, right, not have it change. But I know, there's got to be progress, there's got to be changes, and there's got to be revenue and everything else that happens. But as long as we don't lose sight of the community as a whole, and like I said, the landscape and the history that's here, yeah. But unfortunately, I can't really pick a specific community at this point.
No worries, I'm just trying to find things.
Yeah, no. We all are, so we can preserve it.
Thank you. Next will be Vice Mayor Wu.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, thank you so much for your service. It's very interesting. I do see that you are actually supervise the technical personnel in maintenance, repairs, anything related to the metro's rail signal systems.
Yes, sir.
Is there any interesting things? Because for some reason, I think the railroad is connected to the history. So I think that that is is a great coincidence, because I remember that roughly there are 15,000 Chinese workers that help our country to build a transcontinental railroad. And so since you have served, and you're still serving as our commissioner, so what is the most important issue you think of preservation that in our city? Why that is important, if there's any?
I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Downey, but I've been here for a little over roughly 15 years. I did see what not having a commission like this can do. I grew up in an area in Downey where, everything was basically stylistic the same. And one year you just saw the first little mini mansion pop up, then the second, then the third, and then that's all you saw. And I think everybody lost sight of what the city was, right? Now it's just about, the shiny new house, 2 stories, and obstructing the other neighbor's view, or now getting upset that they can look into your yard. I think the most important part is not losing sight of what our communities are, what our foundation is, right? I really love living here. I think it's very family friendly. I love my wife loves the trees everywhere. I love the backdrop, so I think that's the most important part about just us in general. The same thing working in Metro. Metro looks very deeply into what impact they're gonna have when they show up. And love them or hate them, they're also a business, they need to do what they gotta do. But even when they look at a specific area or a site where they're gonna have a bus station, train station, or whatever, they try to look within that city and see how they can complement what's around them and not just have shiny metal in the middle of, you know, a Spanish community or something. But yeah, I think that's the important part, is not losing sight of what we are, who we are, and what we want to preserve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So Eric, is there anything that you would like to tell the council, or just anything about yourself, or what distinguishes you as an applicant?
No, I'm very humbled and blessed to have even served the last 2 years. I never thought it was something, I would look to actually do. It was the pandemic time, and politics and cities were changing faster than I ever thought it could. My son one day asked what was wrong, what was going on politically and, in the city, and things that he heard at school. I told him, I don't know, but maybe when he grows up, he could make a change. And he's like, Dad, you're a good dad. Why don't you do something, right? And that's the only reason why I applied, and I thank him every day. I've learned a lot. I've been exposed to a lot of knowledge, and other commissioners on my commission, have a lot of, history that they're able to share with me. And all in all, I'm just blessed to have even been given the opportunity, meeting out great people too. So thank you all for everything you do as well.
Well, thank you. So with that, we will be deliberating and making our decision on Tuesday at the council meeting. So you're welcome to either join us again or watch on YouTube. So
Oh, thank you very much.
appreciate it. Have a great evening.
You too.
Our next interview is with Eric Weeks.
Good evening, Councilman.
Good evening, Eric. So we're going to have questions from all four of us. We appreciate you volunteering and for your service already on the commission. So with that, let me see where we start. Looks like Councilmember Ding will have the first question.
All right. Okay. Hi, Eric. Thank you. This our commission. It's 2 years or 4 years already. Yeah.
I believe it's 4.
4 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for this service for
my
our
privilege.
Yeah. Okay. And it's within the last 4 years. So any project or you approve or you discuss for the historical preservation?
Well, I think as far as projects go, during the last 4 years, we've had a couple of good events that come out of it. We've got the historical statement developed, along with the outside firm that was helping us put that together. We had a lot of input on that. And that is pretty fascinating reading if you've had an opportunity to go through it. And along with that, the recent survey that was done of the areas in San Gabriel that are considered as, special districts because of their uniqueness, their age, or architectural context, or whatever. So those I think are very beneficial to the city to have that knowledge. A couple of other things that we've talked about that I think is pretty helpful is the Mills Act. That was discussed maybe, I'm trying to think now, maybe 6 months ago or so. And we're trying to help the council or the city develop the process on how people can get engaged and make that contract with the government, and the trade-off from property tax to be able to use that money to develop or to maintain your historical residence, which is a good trade-off. And I think the process needs to be refined a little bit. I think right now, monetarily, to get the process going, it's a little on the high side. In my personal opinion, I think a lot of people that would be interested in doing that might be older folks that are retired, want to have limited funds maybe, and trying to get out of the property tax or have the property tax reduced and be able to use that to maintain their home. So I think there's some trade-offs that need to happen, but I think that's something that not many people know about. So I think the word needs to get out that that is available, and be nice to see more people take advantage of that. So I think those are the three things that come to mind with what we've been dealing with over the last 4 years, the highlights. There's been other issues, but in my mind, those are probably the big ones.
Okay. So you mentioned the historical, I think it's not just for our common area, but also for the residential. So for the one residential property, how do you for your discuss the commissioner, do you have any like guideline? It's what kind of residential home would become the historical preservation?
Well, there isn't any fast guidelines. For example, some of the areas that are in that survey are homes that are maybe 100 years old in districts. The Hermosa district, compare that to the Village, which is like a post-World War II era. So they have different styles, right? And so you can't really nail it down. Every district is different. And in those districts, there's individual architectural styles that it's just a beautiful mix. It's kind of what makes the history or those neighborhoods so spectacular, is that the language, the richness of the architecture.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. So Eric, that was a good about what's happened. So as far as going forward, what do you see as any challenges to the Historic Preservation Commission going forward, as far as like either what's happening with the state or in development, or just what you see in San Gabriel?
Well, I think the problem that we have right now is that we don't meet often enough, and we learn about a topic that's come up, and it's maybe already advanced to the point where, God, we wish we would have had a say in what the city's doing with this particular issue. Nothing comes to mind right now, but I know that in the last couple of meetings, we've looked at each other. Why are we just hearing about this now? We just want to be more involved. We want to have more input. We don't really have any power, so to speak, but it's nice to be able to voice our opinion. I think everybody on our commission is really dedicated. The staff that we have now, the commissioners are, I've been on the commission for quite some time, and I can see the gelling that's happening with everyone. Not to say that we want to, permanently be on this commission, and there's other people that want to contribute, but I think it's, right now it's running really smoothly, and I think we could have a lot more input and just help out a little bit more, bigger voice.
Thank you. So next will be Vice Mayor Wu.
Thank you, Mayor. Eric, thank you again for your dedication and your service to our city. You have mentioned that the purpose of you're replying for this position because you want to maintain cultural identity and historical significance of the city. Can you be more specified on cultural identity today in our city?
Cultural identity right now it's a lot different from, for example, take a 100-year-old block of homes. I go back to the Girona district because I live there, right? Those homes are all very old. Culturally speaking, there was not much of a mix of cultures back when that area was developed. And so today, we have a lot of other cultures that are involved or living in that area now. As you know, homes get sold, they get bought, and I see in our area, I see a lot of respect for maintaining that. And on the other hand, we've had issues where, and I don't know if this is a cultural thing or not, but we've had issues where people will want to come in and then we don't want to develop a property. They buy something and they have bigger plans. They want to go 2 stories. They want to go and violate not violate, maybe that's too harsh of a word, but they want to kind of go outside the boundaries of what's already established in that area. And we don't have the authority to say no, but we try to make recommendations on, you might want to set the house back farther. You might want to consider a single story to go with the neighborhood to keep the unification as is. But I think that runs across all cultures. I don't really think you can assign anything to, any different cultures. Everyone wants to come in and kind of maintain it, the status quo. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
This is very diverse culture city now, so I definitely agree with you.
It is very diverse.
So, somehow, when there is another level, we say the state of California, when they have a new policy, sometimes they will impact our community, especially when we try to preserve the cultural look, how we can keep our community as original as possible. So, for example, if we have you ever conduct any issues such as like to have an area be designated as a historical preserved area, then we can stay away from SB 9. I don't know if you know SB 9 policy.
Yeah, I think that's if you're close to a transit center, you have the opportunity to do it to multifamily homes just to increase the density and take advantage of the transit that's there. Yeah, that's a tough one. How do you go against the state? And how do you, I don't know the answer to that, but it's definitely something that has to be brought up. We can't just roll over and let that happen.
Understand it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Councilmember Chan.
Hello, Mr. Weeks.
Hello.
Thanks for coming, and thanks for serving. A question I had for you is, especially since you've been on the commission, you are serving currently, and so as of right now, if you continue, are there any specific projects or tasks or properties even that you would like to see worked on, or that you see as your next step, or the next goal, basically, if you continue on this and would like to see as moving in the next step in the right direction?
Well, let's see. I think I definitely would want to be involved in reviewing future projects. I think the most recent one we did was the development of the partial nursery site over on San Gabriel Boulevard. There's a proposal there. We've looked at the conceptual plans for that and had an opportunity to review and comment. I haven't heard much on that, or if it's progressed at all. I don't see any movement at the site. But I think if we have an opportunity to review conceptual designs that are being proposed, not only residential, but industrial and any type of commercial, I think our input in maintaining the status quo of our historical aspect is something we want to be involved in.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Sorry about that. Thank you. So with that, is there anything you'd like to tell the council, or anything you think we'd find maybe interesting that we may not have asked you?
Well, I don't know anything other than what we've discussed right now. I do want to extend my thanks to the council for allowing me to contribute and volunteer my time. It's a privilege for me to be able to do this. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So we will be having our deliberations and making a decision at the council meeting on Tuesday. So you're welcome to either join us in person or watch us on YouTube.
In the chambers?
Yep, we'll be here for our council meeting.
Oh, okay. All right. Excellent.
Thanks, Eric. Have a
Thank
good
you
evening.
all. Thank you very much.
Wait, hold on. We're gonna do it. I guess we'll adjourn for 2 minutes. Health break. We got two down, so we're good.
Our next interviews are for the Planning Commission. The next interview is with Carlos Fernandez for the Planning Commission.
Good evening, Carlos.
Hi, good evening.
Hey, thank you for volunteering to serve on the commission. We really appreciate it when people step up for service. So tonight, we're going to ask, each of the council members that are here are going to ask questions. So I think I'm starting this round. Let me see. So for the Planning Commission, this is, in my opinion, one of the more important commissions on that we have, because it really does determine the character and it wraps in all the other commissions in, as far as you know, the future of our city. So, looking at your resume, I see that you are you have an architecture license and you're a general contractor. What type of experience would you bring as far as the planning side of it, as far as like it applies to the whole city rather than a particular project?
I've dealt with a lot of different projects throughout many different cities. So I guess when you refer to that question, I don't know whether you're referring to like city planning as a whole or like actual ordinances within the city.
Well, kind of both, because design review deals with an individual project, but the planning kind of deals with the like larger projects and how they fit with the city, and it has a lot more to do with, you know, the character of the project and how it really engages and interfaces with the area.
So a lot of I have experience. I studied architecture for my BA, and so that gave me a lot of experience in urban planning, which is kind of what you're referring to, right? So I've dealt with a lot of planning commissions through my experience of just processing architectural plans and getting projects entitled. So I guess my experience would be the fact that I am aware of the aspects of the city and the limitations that any planning rule or contributes to projects, how it hinders or how it could improve a project.
Okay, thank you. Next will be Vice Mayor Wu.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Mr. Hernandez. Thank you so much for applying for this position. I don't see much information about your, you know, more like a personal bio, but how many years you have been living in this city?
So I've been living in the city for 5 years. Prior to living here, I was living in Alhambra. I have a lot of connection to the city of San Gabriel only because three of my siblings have lived within the city for over 20 years. So
from your past 60 months, what you have seen that, you know, if you will be appointed as a planning commissioner, that you want to correct or you want to improve for this city?
So one of the things that I didn't realize is how much commercial development there is actually within the city of San Gabriel. I didn't realize it extended so far south, right? And I also don't know, I think one of the things with being out in the urban area is that everything is very segregated. So you have a commercial corridor, you know, you have residential areas. So I think finding that area where it's kind of a nice mixture. I actually think that this downtown area has a lot of potential where it could be revitalized and introduce something where it's a mixture, where it's not just commercial or just not residential. So I think that has a big potential where, although you are in an urban setting, the suburban setting, at least you're able to have some little bit of urban in it, you know? And I think some of the projects try to accomplish that, but a lot of these larger scale projects are all encapsulating. So they try to provide the commercial, the living, just in one entity. And I think that takes away from the character of the city or just the city itself.
So what's your evaluation about the, we call maybe south, like a Valley Boulevard or St. Gabriel Boulevard, which is more like we have mixed use buildings there, we have hotels there. What will you expect that it will be pretty similar things we can develop on Las Tunas?
I mean, on Las Tunas, I think it would be difficult to do so only because of I think the valley was developed in such a way because of the size of the street and the proximity to the freeway. And so then you have these amenities that are already present. Whereas Las Tunas, you get more into a suburban area, so you have smaller homes, single-family homes. So something to the extent of having such a large corridor would be overwhelming, but maybe having like a boutique hotel or like a nice restaurants or multicultural, something to that effect. And I think Las Tunas tries to do that already with a new development with a Paris Cafe is at. I just don't think it's quite there where it needs to be. And I don't know that the money is in here or the incentive for some developer to come in and provide that, but I think part of it is how much the city wants to maintain itself in this character, because a nice hotel would be a nice thing to have, a nice amenity to have up here.
Thank you.
I don't know if that made sense. I'm not used to being interviewed this way. I'm not used to being interviewed. I haven't been interviewed since I got out of college, so this is strange.
No worries. We're a strange council. So next will be Councilmember Chan.
Hello, sir. Thanks for coming out. I just want to get a sense for your vision of our city. You've already mentioned the things you've learned about the mechanics of our city, just kind of being around. Would you be more in favor of high-density housing or less, or maybe in certain areas you think they would do better or not? Or what's your feel on that?
Well, I think the city already has a general plan in that. So it'd be hard to deviate from that because the city itself is providing the amenities where these high-density areas are at, which are usually located within the main corridors, which is the way a suburban city is established, right? So you maintain high density in the areas that are determined for that. But maybe the city doesn't necessarily have to designate one area as a high density. Maybe it could have multiple areas where it's medium density or low density, where it's not such a high concentration, so that you don't provide that additional traffic or just that intenseness. This is why these main corridors, in my opinion, get so busy all the time. So maybe spread it out a bit, which I know is difficult because I don't want a building next to my house either. But not necessarily in the neighborhoods, but not necessarily just on I think it's San Gabriel and Valley are the ones that are most dense. So I mean, it would be something to look at. But also, I think these general plans, that's what they tend to do. They tend to isolate and just, I guess, pigeonhole you to one area. And those are the areas that are the densest.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Councilmember Ding.
Thank you, Mayor. Carlos, thank you to apply the warranty job, to serve our community. And the Planning Commission, so will be decide what we give to us the recommendation, what the way to develop. So currently, we already have like more around to the 19 the project in our city. Okay, and still some it's finished and still develop. So community, I know the community is the people. Some it's like it, it's really appreciate, but some it's a lot of concern. So your planning commission, how do you balance on that, or and your vision too? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's difficult. Like I mentioned, I've dealt with many planning commissions and several different projects that I've taken not in this city, but just in other cities.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see where the community comes from, and I could see how it would affect me living in this city directly, depending on the decisions that the planning commission does. But I think you also need to look at the future of the city and whether just not that individual neighbor or that neighborhood, but where do you want the city to go? Which I always thought it was hilarious that the city motto is a city with a mission. Like you literally have a mission. But it's just having the idea of having, I guess, the vision to see where this city is going to be in 100 years. I mean, the mission's been there forever, right? So is this really where they envision the city to be, where Valley is the only major like high development? I don't know that those decisions were made, and if they were made, I don't know that they were made properly. So it'd be taking that into consideration and just addressing the neighborhood's needs and explaining to them that although they are affected, this is a better thing for their generational rather than immediate, which is what planning is, right? I don't know. I feel like my answers are everywhere.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Your answer always good. Give it to our information, no matter it's good or not. Okay, so yeah, we just want to listen to your opinion, so then help us to make a decision. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So is there anything that that you would want to add that maybe we haven't asked you that possibly, any type of experience or anything you think would separate you as an applicant that would help us make a decision?
I mean, I don't know what other type of applicants you're having. I'll tell you the reason I applied for it. The reason I applied for it was because I feel like the biggest obstacles that I've ever encountered in me trying to expedite a project or develop a project from design to an actual building has been the Planning Commission. And I always feel like it's such a big obstacle that they actually need somebody to not just advocate for the Planning Commission or the city, but also advocate for the person, like you were mentioning, and try to be objective and try to pull yourself out and see that the project is good for the city. And I think a lot of planning commissions that I've dealt with are very strict on what is written by law or by the planning commission rules, that it's hard for them to deviate from it, and it actually ends up hindering the city. For some reason or another, I ended up really liking San Gabriel. I still don't know. And I would hate for that to be the reason why the city remains stagnant. And so that's why I was like, I'll see what I could do.
Great, thank you. So I think that's all of our questions. We will be deliberating and then making a decision on Tuesday at the council meeting. So you're welcome to either join us again and watch the proceedings, or you can actually watch them on YouTube. Either way.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you,
guys.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Our next interview is with Fang Lee for the Planning Commission.
Good evening, Fang.
Good evening. How are
Good
you?
to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. We do appreciate you volunteering again. Obviously, you must like it. So we have, all four of us will be asking you questions tonight. I think we're starting with Vice Mayor Wu this time.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Mr. Lee.
Hello.
Well, thank you so much for your service in a couple months. My question is simple. How do you feel about this? Can you just share your thought with us, being a commissioner for planning?
Sure. I'm back here to keep my seat warm. Just joking. No, I mean since the day one I joined, the first meeting was the joint sections, right? I went home 11 p.m. So, but when I got home, I think about it, and then I thought, wow, this is very impactful to the community, and then it is a serious job, right? And so the more thoughts I give in, and then the more I got is, okay, if I get involved in this, it is a serious thing. It is gonna be, the community will be impacted by the decision that we make and the recommendation that we give to their council. So that's the reason that I want to have some impact on the community. I want to provide whatever I can to serve to the community. That's why I'm here.
And I remember the first time you were sitting here, and one of the words that very impressed me that is balance of the city. So how far do you think from the step one that you have already been appointed, if you'll be reappointed again, what will you do to improve and make the city more balanced as commissioner?
Balance is the key for me, right? And then also I would like to speak from my heart, right? So it is very important that there will be forces pulling you from the left and from the right. And you have to find the balance to strike it and then to, make a better decisions for the community.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Councilmember Chan.
Hello, thank you for your service so far.
Thank you.
What I wanted to ask you about, and now that you, especially since you've had a little experience now on the commission and practical experience, what is your feeling about the amount and type of density in our city? Are you looking at more? Do you prefer more high density or less, or maybe in certain areas? I know you talked about balance. So, are there certain areas of the city you'd like to see more high density development, and others that you would leave alone or keep in a different way and a different feel? Or yeah.
Personally, I would like to keep San Gabriel as a small city. But affordable housing is the real threat to our community and to our society. We need to tackle that problem, right? How we're gonna tackle it is the biggest problem-solving issues, right, we have. So keeping the city small and solving the problem. So that's the reason that we need to have the balanced solutions for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Councilmember Ding.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah. Hi, Fen. Okay, it's see you again, and thank you to appoint a couple months ago, right?
Sure, a few months ago.
Okay. So yeah, and interesting to service. So continue to interesting this kind of service. Yeah, like so it's planning. It's like always give to us the recommendation for our for the commercial and the residential. So first one is for the commercial. So for our current develop. So what's the future, your vision for our commercial development?
For the commercial developments is, I think, a key income for the city. I would say there should be, we already have the zone for the commercial mixed use, right? So let's keep it that and also separate it from the residential area, because personally, I would like to see a small city environment, not like commercial everywhere, right? So there's a balance. So I keep on going back to the balance because I really feel that I'm a long-term resident for the San Gabriel, and I feel that there's a need for a change, but there's also a need to preserve. So that's that.
I like how you say the balance, but like just mentioned, state have the
mandate
and affordable housing too. How do you balance that too?
That's the reason that in our last planning commission meeting we sent up to you guys for our recommendations to consider. So that we stay here for longer than expected. I think we went home about 9:30 or so. There was a good debate from both sides. And at the end, in my opinion, we reach pretty good recommendations.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I know you've had a lot of service so far on the council, but no, no, I think you've really seen that it is impactful, what you do on a commission. It has real world results and real world impact to the community as well as, you know, the neighbors and developers. So as far as going forward, what do you think are the biggest challenges for you personally? Let's say when you have these projects where they may technically fit the rules, but they may not fit the character of you know, what the city's really looking for. So, for example, it fits every single every box, but like you said, it may not fit the character or what really is existing, or even really what we really want in a neighborhood.
There's always a laws that's set up by the state or the county, right? So we always have to abide by it because if we are using their fundings for it, right? Otherwise, they would be slapping our hands with their lawsuits and stuff. However, there's always room to improve as a city, right? So we can make our own kind of charter or something as a city to preserve our characters, our small city environments, our missions. So in that way, like we can moving forward at the same time, not moving it too fast.
Got it. Okay, so is there anything that you would want to add as far as maybe something we haven't asked that would be good information for the council to have?
Just want to add a personal story about my little backgrounds, right? I work for the City of Los Angeles Public Works as a project manager, handling the grant funded projects from the federal or states or metro. So with that baggage or with that experience, I can contribute and I can give you different recommendation, different voice on the table for you to make decisions on.
Great, thank you. So I think that's all the questions that we have. We will be deliberating and making a decision on Tuesday. So you're welcome to either join us again and watch it live, or you can watch us on YouTube. So
Sure.
thank you, Feng. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
The next interview is with Cassandra Sanchez.
Good evening, Cassandra.
Hi.
Thank you for
evening.
thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate it when people step up and volunteer. So we're going to ask you, each council member is going to ask you questions regarding your application for the Planning Commission. We will start with Councilmember Chan.
All right, thanks for coming. I was going to ask about what is your vision for the amount and type of density in our city? I mean, what do you kind of envision and what you'd like to see in terms of the layout of our city? More of the mixed use high density or less, or certain areas, or certain certain pockets of the city that are going to be different.
Okay. Great question. Thank you, Councilmember Chan. First, I'd like to take the opportunity to say thank you all for your time and your service as well. With response to the density of the city, I mean, it's my understanding, first of all, I would have to look at it from a commissioner perspective. So it would be the lens of the commission, which is the beautification as well as the inhabitants. It's my understanding that we do have, I would have two factors holistically. One of them would be, how are we supporting the inhabitants of the city? Another factor that I would look in from my professional perspective and what I'm seeing now as commercial development and strategic planning, we are post-pandemic, so everything is reimagined and revised, if you will. There has to be creative ways as far as planning and innovative ways. What we considered as mixed use, whether it be office, residential, there's a new imagining of it within various cities throughout Southern California.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councilmember Ding.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Cassandra, thank you to apply the commission to warrant here. And okay, what's the interesting or your motivation to apply the planning commissioner?
Yeah, great question. As I said in my bio, I serve on various nonprofit boards throughout Los Angeles. And recently, on a non-political, non-biased, I'm ambassador for a nationwide organization, and they invited us to the White House last November. As a result, I was extremely fueled by that. And as I looked at the opportunities, again, I'm affiliated with many associations throughout Los Angeles, but if you want to change the world, you start with the community, and what better than to start with my community? And so professionally, I think my strategic planning, I work with developers, and I have presented to various planning committees throughout Los Angeles and Southern California. So I've sat on this side, and I've looked forward to sitting on that side to build my colleagues and ensure that we come to amenable opportunities for the city at large.
So, just by the way, so you're interested, thank you for your answer, but what's your vision for our current development?
I see from a planning perspective. Well, I do believe that it's imperative from a planning perspective if we're looking at economic development. I do like what I'm seeing around as far as new development happening throughout the city. With that said, there is a happy medium, if you will. We are a city rich, historically rich, and small town city feel, while I really dislike the term small town city because I feel like San Gabriel's a grand city. We're geographically located where there's great opportunity. So we want to ensure that we support development that can speak to the grandness of San Gabriel, but still retain the small-time feel, if you will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra. So working with developers and working with different agencies throughout Los Angeles, what do you think it would be? And you probably don't know, all the gritty details of San Gabriel, but what do you think are the biggest challenges in development in general, and potentially if you know anything about San Gabriel?
I mean, quite frankly, I obviously, as a citizen, just know what I see, to be quite honest. In preparation for this meeting, I'm obviously going to look at the website and see what's happening in the city. So I know that there's a handful of development happening. As far as what I feel is the potential or what I feel is the vision for planning within the city?
So I would say challenges in general, because there's a lot of push for from the state for cities to do particular things, and they, you know, that while I see that as a potential problem, but it could be a potential, you know, solution for some people.
Sure.
I just want to see like what kind of challenges you think that would pose as a commissioner.
Well, I like to hear that from my mayor, so thank you, because I never want to hear a challenge. I want to hear what opportunities do we have as a city. So I appreciate that as a citizen. From a planning perspective, I mean, the reality is this is a small city, so we don't have an excessive amount of land that we can tap into for that. You know, our ordinances now do not mirror like a downtown where we have an 82-story high-rise. So obviously, there's real factors as far as land use. But yet, again, speaking as a resident, you know, we still want to retain opportunities, and certain things that I've seen in the reimagining of existing commercial real estate spaces is being able to support that. How can we support the parking through rideshare services? How can we support the parking through community access? So obviously land, rideshare, to retain the small community city pulse, if you will.
Thank you. So next we will go to Vice Mayor Wu.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi.
Hi there.
Cassandra, thank you so much for applying for this position. From your experience that you live in this city, you're also the resident citizen here. How do you evaluate the projects or the current development status in our city? We currently have like 19 projects throughout the cities. Many of them are mixed use. And I understand that you mentioned about small town city. Is that to the small town city, the definition, does that mean that we are having too many projects, or we are okay to have more projects? Because I do also see that from your resume that you have 15 years experience in business development. So you must understand that the tax is also a vital element to make our living better. So how do you define a small city? Is that overwhelming, it's already overdeveloped, or we still have room to develop?
I appreciate your question, Vice Mayor Wu. Thank you. Look, from a business perspective, I absolutely think we still have room to develop. But we cannot redevelop without the services that we need in position for that. You know, from a resident perspective, and of course from the lens, if I were to serve as a commissioner, you know, we have a commitment to the citizens. And so we do have to look at the inhabitants. It literally says the inhabitants. So by doing this development, realistically as a city, can we support the development? Building code is building code across the board. ADA building code is building code. It's the planning and the ordinances that, and frankly, the council that realistically has a sense of, do we have the infrastructure with, you know, fire, police to support it, as well as public works and public services.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I think that's the last of the questions as far as from council, but is there anything you would like to add? Just maybe something interesting that we may need to know, or you think it would be nice for us to know as we're deliberating?
Yeah. Well, I do believe perspective is key. And it's funny because Commissioner just shared, I wholeheartedly, as a citizen, want you to pick the best person for the job. But there is something to be said about perspective and lenses. And I'm told that the whole time he served, there has not been a woman on the Planning Commission. And I do believe there are studies, because I'm a founder of a mentorship for girls, that there's a level of empathy that women lead with. So I'd love for you to consider that, and not that pick the best person for the job, but different perspectives and different lenses, which makes up this council, I'm sure has been beneficial that you've seen. So.
Well, thank you, appreciate that. So we will be deliberating on Tuesday, and we'll be making the decision on Tuesday. So you're welcome to join us in chambers and see it live, or you can watch us on YouTube.
Okay, will do. Well, either way, thank you all for your service and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, and we appreciate you volunteering. So have a great evening.
Our next applicant is Jerry Schwartz.
Good evening, Jerry.
Good evening.
So first, I'd like to just thank you for your service so far, and thank you for applying again.
Sure.
So we haven't scared you off.
No, no, not at all.
So we're going to have questions from council tonight. We'll have questions from each of us, and then we'll give you an opportunity to kind of give us a recap of what you think we might need to know.
Sure.
So first will be Councilmember Ding.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
Thank you to the service. I saw you already have this 3 term of 6 year, right?
Yes,
With the
that's true.
Planning commission. Thank you for your service. And because we have a state have the house element, okay. And so, what's your vision for the future our city, the planning?
Well, it's a good question. I think there is a future for this city in terms of, obviously we had a study session together where we talked about inclusionary housing. Subsequently, the Planning Commission spent 2.5 hours talking about inclusionary housing and housing density bonuses before we came up with a compromise that we've sent to you. So obviously, there's a future, and then there's the housing, the most recent housing plan that was approved by the state, and the implementation of that plan, so that we can try and, I don't know how we're going to meet those numbers, but we've got to try. And so there'll be implementation, and then there'll be development, as of course from a housing standpoint, as soon as the economy gets better. The thing we don't have any control over is finances. At the same time, as part of that process, there's been real interest in, especially on San Gabriel Boulevard, in mixed-use projects, where we can get some housing and some commercial together, where people can live in a combined way. There are opportunities there for inclusionary housing, or with density bonuses, larger numbers of inclusionary housing for low and moderate income, something that whether you believe we should have the mixed-use projects or not, the idea of having the opportunity to build some of that inclusionary housing is important. The idea of being able to bring in some national tenants is important. That's one way to potentially do it, based on what we have seen, what we saw before the economic slowdown, in terms of the interest in those projects. I hope to have the opportunity to do that in the future, and also provide leadership, Planning Commission leadership. I'm currently the vice chair, and so I consider myself a leader both because of that and because of my experience. And I hope to have more opportunities to work on those in the future.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. So, Jerry, luckily we live in a time with no controversy in the state regarding housing and planning, and nothing locally. But
Or there's nothing that isn't controversial.
yeah, but seriously, so as far as like everything coming down from the state and just different things, what do you see as our greatest challenge as a city from a commissioner's point of view?
Our greatest challenge is I don't want to say twofold, but one of the greatest challenges we have is that our hands are tied. Our hands are tied. The state has said you got to build this incredible number of units. And whether you look at how close that number is to comparable larger cities around us, or just the fact that there's a designation, that's a challenge. I think that is one of the challenges, because we want to have more control. We don't necessarily have the control. Where our control is approving projects where we can get those numbers. That's I think the biggest challenge. I think the other challenge is being ready to look at the opportunities that will come our way for mixed-use projects or commercial projects or projects on San Gabriel Boulevard specifically when the economy gets better. When's that going to be? I have no idea. But I want to be here and be part of that, because when we did that before the pandemic, it was an exciting time. Whether it was the bowling alley site or the nursery site, it was an exciting time before the pandemic. I'd like to be able to be part of a revival of those opportunities, that energy, and it means people want to invest in our town. And I think that's the one thing we can control, and the one thing we can get excited about is people want to spend money to build in San Gabriel.
Well, thank you. Next will be Vice Mayor Wu.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Jerry, so good to see you here, and thank you so much for your service. Sure. And well, you use exciting time. I totally agree with you, because in the past 6 years that with your service, that is somehow we can call accomplishment, that making the city prosperous. So how would you describe the current performance of our city planning? Do you think we still have more room to develop, or we develop too many, or we are just about right?
I think in the middle, part of the challenge is that the city feels built out in many ways, especially in the core. But we have, as we've talked previously about in this discussion, we have the requirements from the state. And so the question is, where do you put some of that? We have to do some of that. So you put it on the perimeter. I don't think any of us foresee taking down existing residential to put up bigger residential. That's not the answer. So it's trying to make vacancies where we have vacancies and trying to make the most of those. So I think there are still opportunities, but I think they're more on the perimeter than in the core of the city. I think the core of the city is more set, whether it's, you know, some of it's historical, and that has to be preserved. Others of it is just built out, and there are hard choices to make in those regards. So I think there are opportunities, but I think there are segments of this city that are built out.
So in the past 6 years, have you had experience working with our Historic Preservation Commission regarding how to balance that? We need a part of the preservation.
The answer, not in a way that where we've had a joint meeting. That may be something that makes sense in the future. We've not done that, so usually from a historic standpoint, we would defer to them because they are the folks who have done the survey, know the results, and are trying to work accordingly, more so than us.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Councilmember Chan.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
Thanks for coming.
Sure.
I know you've talked a lot about, you know, things we want to do and how we're restrained by the state at some point. But in just your opinion, and would you like to see in our city more high-density housing and development in general, or less, and maybe in what areas? I know you've already mentioned the core is difficult, and you know the fringes are I guess going to be where we're going to have the most opportunities.
Right. Well, San Gabriel Boulevard is obviously not a fringe of the city, but it's a corridor that is not really developed, but has, I mean, you've got bowling alley site where things have been approved, and you've got the nursery site where the growing area where a project's been has been considered. So there are a few of these that have been approved, and a few of these that are still to be presented. But I think that's where the future is. If you want development in the community, that's where the future is going to be.
I see. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
So, with a little bit of time we have left, is there anything you would like to add? Maybe something that would help us in our deliberations, or anything, just observations you might have about being on the commission?
Well, just a reminder, well, I guess, any other observations? Well, one thing we haven't really talked about is I'm doing this because I enjoy it. We forget that public service is valuable, and I'm obviously appreciative for what all the time you all spend, because I know you're going to run this back tomorrow night. But I'm doing this because I enjoy being on the Planning Commission. I enjoy giving back to the community. I think this is an area where, from my professional experience and it fits my background, my expertise, my areas of expertise, and I've been a community volunteer at one level or another 15 or more years. First with school-related things and on the Gabriel Site Council, and now doing this. And so giving to the community is something that is important. And I'd like to see continued, I'd like to see the opportunities for us to continue to work as a commission and bring things forward as opportunities allow. And I hope to have that chance to do that with, again. So I appreciate your consideration.
Well, thank you. So we will be deliberating Tuesday at the council meeting as well as making our decisions. So you're
Okay.
welcome to either join us in the chambers or watch us on YouTube, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, probably watch, but I appreciate that.
I wish I
Okay.
could too.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks.
Have a good evening, Jerry.
Yeah.
The last person that will be interviewed tonight is Melvin Tam.
Good evening, Melvin.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thought you guys forgot about me.
No, unfortunately, you're the last tonight, but
It's
we
okay.
we're still full of energy. So thank you for stepping up and volunteering. We always appreciate it when people volunteer for service. That's what makes our city go around is we have a lot of people volunteering. So we're going to have questions from each of us tonight. And then we'll give you an opportunity to kind of give some information we might need to hear from you. So
Okay.
I will start. So after looking through your resume and applications, I see you're in the real estate industry.
Yes,
So
that's correct.
you're probably familiar with a lot of the issues from the state and development in general, but I just wanted to see what you might see as either either planning challenges or challenges that most cities or even San Gabriel in particular might face, like the biggest challenges we face in planning.
From what I understand, San Gabriel has a large proportion of renters, and they're not any different than any other cities that have a housing shortage issue. And I feel for planning, you guys would have challenges finding new developments to meet this demand for housing. From my understanding, there's not much development in like Los Angeles County as a whole right now. And from watching like the minutes that were posted online, it seems like there's not much development in the city of San Gabriel right now either. Is that correct? For like.
I would defer to staff in that. I think it's because of the economy it's slowing down, but we have a lot of projects, legacy projects existing.
Okay.
I think we're 19, is that correct?
19.
17, I think there's some closed down.
Okay.
That's why I ask, because it changes, it's dynamic. So they vary in sizes. We have some, for our city, some pretty significant, some large, lot of units. But yeah, that's just why I wanted to see if you're, like what your feelings are and the challenges we might face with that.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think the challenge of meeting housing shortage, that's a big issue right now. And I think affordable housing is probably like the big topic on hand. I think watching the last meeting from the Planning Commission, that was like a 2-hour plus meeting. I watched the entire thing, which was kind of interesting. I mean, at least for me, because I figured in order to understand what I would be doing, it would be wise to see what's been going on in the past meetings. And it seems that you guys already know that that's already a big challenge ahead of you guys. I know with the inclusionary clause that for affordable housing for new developments, that was put into discussion. I don't know if it's been voted yet, but I don't even know if that would be enough, or if that would really make a big difference in my opinion, for, you know, what's being built right now. You know, 10% or whatever of very little development right now is still 10% of very little. So I guess the question is, or the answer to your question is, like, how would you guys be able to fulfill that demand? You know, that's with limited land too.
Welcome to our world. So next will be Vice Mayor Wu.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Mr. Tan.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for applying for this position. And welcome to St. Gabriel, because it shows that you're new to the city, and congratulations that you have a daughter. Then
Yes.
thank you so much for, you know, stand up and serve the community for our next generation. It shows that you also, not only the real estate broker licensee, but also you have an ADU certification. Is that a certification issued by the National Association of Realtors, or what is that about?
Yes, so that when I had taken that certification, I think it was a pilot certification that was issued out by NAR. And so it's, at that time, it was brand new, and I think they were still even learning how to implement that certification. So I will be upfront. The curriculum that they provided in order to get the certification was not as, how would you say this, not as detailed as I thought it would be. But I think it is important to highlight that the necessity of ADUs or housing. Once again, I hate to harp on housing, but you know that's one way for local municipalities to get more housing. So it's just making sure to educate homeowners in terms of the options that are available to them, so that they can maximize their property.
So from your perspective as a real estate professional, from day one you got the certification of ADU. Do you think the ADU is bringing a positive or negative impact to the community?
That's a loaded question. There's
it
has both. It really has both. I mean, so to give you some context, my sister is currently building an ADU.
In our city?
No, not in San Gabriel, but in LA City. And the reasonings, and we discussed this a lot together as family. The reasoning was that she saw that there was a demand for housing, and she felt that it could be something where she could honestly help offset some of her current housing costs too. So it's kind of like twofold in terms of fulfilling a demand that she saw with a personal interest. So I think that's a positive impact. I think that can be realized for anyone. They can do those two things. Now, the negative impact of that is that you have to have parking. And so you could have the potential to make residential neighborhoods more dense. But I mean, that's honestly, we're talking about now zoning issues and things like that. If we have older zoning codes that are just limiting how much that can be built on a piece of land, we have to kind of change how we think in terms of addressing a new problem. We can't use the same old rules to address new problems. That may not be the most effective way to address things. So, but to answer your question though, it has both negative and positive impacts. I think more so it has more positive impact than negative impact, because you'll bring more housing to people, and as well, like, more income to the city as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councilmember Chan.
Hello. Excuse me. Hi, thanks for coming out.
Yep, thank you.
Of course, we've been talking about housing mostly, and, it's a big topic. And
Yeah.
I mean, and of course, we have the rules we have to follow, but just trying to get a sense for kind of where you are personally. The way you envision San Gabriel city as it is and what it could be, would you personally prefer more high-density housing? Or, well, everything, I guess. High density, it includes housing, and if we do things like multi-use, and then it incorporates the whole neighborhood and the commercial and housing. And I mean, what is your kind of feel for and your preference for the type of city that you like to live in?
Okay.
Or certain areas of the city, that you think that would make more sense for certain things to be in versus not?
So to clarify, your question is, how would I envision the city, like, that I would want to live in? Like, is high density okay? Is that what you're asking?
Right. Or, is it okay? I mean, would you prefer that if it were up to you? And what specific areas or areas that you wouldn't like it to be? Or
So one interesting observation that I have made in my year or so duration as a San Gabriel resident, because I live actually just up the street on Padilla, which is just a block south of Las Tunas. So in this specific region, I feel it's fairly dense, but I and my wife actually really like the fact that when we're at home, we have a lot of things that we can walk to. And I think that's kind of a carryover from the pandemic, where a lot of people were looking for areas to live where they could walk instead of having to drive and commute. And I think, there's been an increase of interest to live in areas where it's a little more dense, but you have within a walking radius things that you can go to: supermarket, restaurants, coffee shop, things like that sort, where you don't have to travel in a car. And especially living in like Southern California, being born and raised here, like all you can think of is like, if you're gonna go somewhere, you have to drive. And this is kind of a shift away from that. And I personally prefer that. And I feel like there's a lot of value in more density, but in certain areas. I'm not saying the entire city. You need to have a good balance where you have very residential areas, but then in areas in, like, let's just say for here, I see there are a number of multi-units and apartment buildings. So this area tends to service, more people. So having like businesses in the area, I think it's good. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Councilmember Ding.
I'm last one, right? Okay. Thank you, the Melvin. You applied this warranty job, and welcome to our city. And congratulations, you have the first child, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you,
Congratulations. And so because that, I just want to ask him. So, do you have the time to prepare the meeting?
That's a very good question. I think being in that room for the amount of time that I was here, I think that's a good indication of the potential of a meeting and the amount of time it takes to be involved in this. And Yeah, I think you make time for things that are worth your time. And one of the reasons why I wanted to get involved in the city was because, not necessarily for me, but for the future of my daughter, you know, I do want to implant myself and have an impact. And ideally, if I can do things that could potentially, in 5, 10 years or whatever, you know, play a role in her life, I think that's mainly why I'm here. You know, so a few hours a week shouldn't really mean much when I'm having a, you know, trying to make a bigger impact.
That's
So-
meaning you spend this time also for your daughter too, right?
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, family is very big. I think one of the luxuries that I have is that working as a real estate agent, I can make my own schedule for the most part. And so with that said, you know, in the middle of the day, I do have time to spend time with my baby. My wife works from home as well. So we are very, very fortunate, I have to say, that we have this luxury to not have to travel to work every single day. So yes, I do make time for the family.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you. And so just in case if the applicant have some project, it's not really compatible with the neighborhood.
Mhm.
So how do you communicate the applicant to think about the neighborhood?
So how to communicate?
Yeah.
Okay.
If applicant, you feel like it's really not compatible with the neighborhood, it's not the, for example, the neighborhood order the 1 story and then suddenly have the 2 story. Yeah. How do you?
We can get going. We'll finish.
Okay.
We'll finish, right?
I think in a situation like that, you would have to be. I mean, you just have to be reasonable. I mean, if someone's trying to encroach on someone else's right to be able to live comfortably, you know, by not conforming to a certain extent, you know, I think the best you can do is just be truthful. You know, just give them the facts. Say that, you know, unfortunately, this doesn't coincide with the area that you're trying to build in. I think that's all you can really do. Be reasonable, be upfront, and you know, at the end of the day, it's not their final say. But obviously, you have to say things diplomatically to get the point across without making people angry. But sometimes, regardless of what you say, people will always be angry. You know, so it's just as long as you do your job and you know relay the point that like, hey, this cannot be done for X, Y, and Z. How they react, unfortunately, is outside of your control. So that's all I can say on that.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer.
All right, so thank you, Melvin. I'll give you an opportunity to close out because I've given everyone else an opportunity. So if there's anything you think we might need to know about you or something you might want to add, your time.
Okay, thank you. No, I mean, honestly, I just appreciate this opportunity. I know I'm new to the city compared to, you know, some of the other applicants for this position, but I hope that doesn't have an impact on your decision because sometimes it's good to have an outsider's view to, you know, give you a fresh point of view on things. But more importantly, I am still, you know, interested in being an impact in this community. So regardless, you know, even if it doesn't work out for this commission, I'm gonna still keep on trying. So, you know, you know, like I know there are other commissions as well, but I think that this planning commission it has a lot of impact, and I think it's really important. And so I figured, you know, if I'm gonna do this, might as well just jump in and find the most important position and see what I can do, and go from there.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So we will be deliberating and making decisions on Tuesday at the council meeting.
Okay.
You're welcome to join us again if you prefer, or if you want to stay with your family, you can watch us on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I really appreciate everyone's time here.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Okay, so without any objection, I will adjourn to the next, well, to the next regular city council meeting is Tuesday, May 16th. So that's our adjournment. Thank you.